Hello everybody, welcome to Gregg's Vintage Workshop, where I'm restoring history one piece at a time. Tonight we're going to be doing episode 4 of the Philco 54 that I started about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Tonight's episode has basically taken me about 3.5 weeks to complete, although for you guys it'll only be about 30 minutes, if that. So I'm not going to give you any details, you're going to have to watch. And at the end of it, I might give you a little bonus footage of the $5 saw that I bought at a yard sale last weekend and show you how that turned out. So without further ado, let's get on with Philco 54, Part 4. Well, hello everybody. Guess what we're getting started on today? I bet only one person can guess. Larry in Tennessee, Back to the Future radios. Yeah, that's right. This is that 54C I started over a year and a half ago. This thing was a complete mess. Somebody had been in there, completely tore it up, changed things around. I do love this hobby and I do like a challenge, so I am going to go back on this. Now, the likelihood of me ever making it work again, probably slim to none. But hopefully with the schematics and the diagrams and a little help from the Lord up above, maybe I will get it back together again and have it work. So anyway, it's worth the shot. So that's where we're at. It's back on the bench. This is my other workshop. This is the one that has my chassis holder, if y'all remember all that. And here's where we left the 54C. And I'm not sure how well you can see that stuff, but as you can see, it's kind of a rat's nest of wires. I had put this in the ultrasonic cleaner because it was so bad with crap and black tar that had melted out of everything. And it actually did clean the wires off so I could see them, the colors, somewhat, the color codes, because everything was black. But it's still a rat's nest, and after everything's sitting, the wires themselves, even the cloth has kind of corroded on them to the point that I don't really trust them. So I'm going to wind up replacing probably 90% of these wires, if not all of them. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. As far as the parts, found all the parts that I had redone. I had redone the first IF, the second IF, the oscillator coil, the antenna coil, which is in the jar over here to protect it. I rewound the primary on that. And the condenser can. Alright, you guys remember that. There's the choke, filter choke. And then we had this safety switch. Well, the safety switch was all bound up, seized up. Somebody made it so that it was no longer a safety switch. But I got a new one, a new old one, not a new old stock, but I found a switch, same switch. This one works perfect. I shot it, it didn't work, contacts didn't work, but I shot it full of electronic cleaner and worked it, and deoxed it and worked it, and now it works perfect. I've done cleaned all the terminals off. I've added these two wires. These two wires are my first start of new wiring, besides the new wires that are on these components that I'd already wired. Got my schematic here. Got a bit of a diagram, lets me remember the layout. I do have pictures. I did find my pictures. They were in my archives. My phone had archived them. I did find my drawings. I got a few pages of drawings that I've done here. But, you know, my mind's done purged all this information, so I'm going to have to relearn all this as I go. I'm really going to have to go by the schematic and my drawings and get this thing figured out. Okay, I got this thing cleaned up a little bit more. I got the whole inside of the chassis coated with the T9. Getting ready to start putting some of these wires back in. See that whole pile of wire I got sitting there, I have to pull out of it. I start trying to get some of it put back in there. Now I'm going to have to flip it over after I get some of it in so I can get up in there and do those two block caps. That'll be holding me up a little bit on some of my wiring. So once I get some of that back in there, I will work on getting this mess out here. This mess here. You can see a hedge off camera, but this mess here, I've got to get this back over. I've got it moved out of the way to work on this other wiring, and then I will take it loose once I get this wiring back in place and get that replaced. Okay, I thought I'd just do a quick update. So I just got through rebuilding these two blocks. This one and this one. This is item 24 and this is item 36. If we look at the print, depending upon how clear this is coming through, this is item 24 here and here, because I had two 110 PF caps in it. And then the other one, item 36, is this one right here with the 1015 in it. So I got those rebuilt and on there. As you can see, I'm starting to see some new wiring coming through here. It's because I've been working away on it down here, so I can get an angle. You can see a few wires run in here. It'll be a long process. Lots of wires. I'm going to do it a wire at a time. Everything else is cleaning up okay. Okay, so I'm continuing to make some pretty good headway on this 54C. I'm about done in this section here. I'm going to resituate it in my holders so I can get to the bottom better. Got the tuning capacitor in there. I've got my wires from my condenser can pretty much run down where they need to go. I've got all the resistors and the caps situated down here. I've been crossing all that stuff out on my schematic as I go, so I know where I'm at. So I think I'm going to resituate this thing and move up to the top, which will be the bottom. So just giving you an update. Okay, so things are continuing to progress. You can see I've got some resistors in parallel. That's so I could meet the exact tolerances of what should have been in here. The resistor sizes that were in here, they don't really make anymore, so I had to make some up so that I'd be right where I wanted to be. I rebuilt this electrolytic here, which was the one that was existing. The one over here that was missing, I got a new can. I've marked it for what it is. Actually, I need to change that because it's supposed to be a 12 microfarad, but obviously they don't make 12s anymore, so I'm putting a 15 in it. So 15 at 450 volts. Until it's been a while since I emptied that can out, I had a cobweb in it. Anyway, I'll go ahead and restuff that. I'll stick you guys on a tripod so you can see how I'm going to do that. This one's actually fairly easy versus some of them, because this one I managed to get the end out of it and it'll just sit right down in there, and then I'll just fold it back over. So let me get you set up for that. We'll get that one done. Okay, so I got the new can here. I got rid of the 12. I'm getting ready to write 15 on here, because that's what I'm putting in it. There we go. My 15 microfarad. Now what I'm planning on doing, this was originally a, not this. This was originally a 3-part cap. It had 3 10s or 3 30s? 3 30s. Therefore there's 3 terminals on here. And it was negative to the case. What I'm going to do, you can see how nice that fits in there. If I get you on screen, see it got a nice slip thing, will fit right on there. So I'm only be using one terminal for the positive, one terminal for the negative. So I think that I'm going to have the positive, get you on screen, have the positive, and I think I'm going to tie these two together, both as negatives, because this radio has a few wires that were really grouped in on the other one, and I think I'm going to split them between the other one and this one for the negative. Now the negative, this is not a chassis ground chassis per se. It goes through a cap. Everything goes through the cap. So this does not directly connect to the chassis. So I'm going to go ahead and tie these together along with the positive over here. So let me see if I can get that done real quick. So to show you what I'm doing here. So this is the negative, as shown by that. I'm going to put it through the big hole, like that. And then the positive is going to come through this little hole. So what I had originally done is I had pre-drilled this, small and big, and we'll do it that way. Now I got to determine if I got enough lead on here to make it up. In fact, I might have to actually extend the lead. I think I'm going to extend the lead on the negative because I can run it up the side like this, and I'll extend that one, and then I'll use this one. Let me keep you on screen. I bent this up. This is the negative. I will extend that out so I have enough to come through here, and this one's plenty long for the positive. So let me extend that and I'll come back. Okay, so here we go. Put a little bit of sleeving on the positive. Ran the negative up through here. I haven't soldered anything yet, but I'm going to connect this one to this one. I'm going to squeeze it down a little tighter there, and then I'm going to connect it to this one. This one's going to, the positive's going to go here. And then I'm going to take a little bit of hot glue, stick right on the edge right there, and shove it right in the can, and then that'll be perfect, just like that. And I can squeeze a little bit on that, hold a little bit better too, but I think that the super glue will hold it, not the super glue, the hot glue will hold it fine. Actually, I got some super glue here. I think I might just super glue it instead. I know it'll hold it fine. So let me get that done. There it is, all done and ready to go back in. What I did, I don't know if you can see in the color or not, but I colored that red, and I colored a negative in black on each of those. No confusion for me, but in the future somebody might be confused, so try to make it as obvious as possible for them. Those two are tied together. That's that one. Let's get this puppy in. I figured I'd make a cardboard sleeve for it, so I made a cardboard sleeve for it, like the other one has. It's not really seen because it doesn't hang down much out of that little clamp, but it's on there. Folks, work's continuing to progress on this 54C. It's very slow and tedious. Very slow and tedious indeed, but I'm making headway. I've got it probably about 50% here. Most all the wiring is completed inside the chassis. other than like the IF cans, the oscillator can, the antenna can. That's all pre-wired on those because I'd completed those a year and a half ago. So it'll just be a matter of bolting those in and wiring them up. Continue. If you've got a few more circuits to put in here, a few more wires, got to get some resistors in here. I got these resistors in here. I got more come over here. Got my safety switch wired in there. If I flip it up on the underside, I've got that in pretty good shape. Got those condenser blocks and the resistors for that in place. I've got the let me move you over, you can see a little bit better. You see I've got the condenser can all in place. I've got the choke in. I've got the caps redone and in place. I've got the tuning capacitor in place. So it's coming along. One thing I hadn't done up to this point is I hadn't tested the speaker. Now, if we look at my schematic here, we can look at the main coil as well as the output transformer coil and the speaker coil. And the one is 200 ohms and the other one's looks like 2600 ohms, so I can see that. So I've cleaned the speaker up. We're over here. See if I can turn this down for you guys can see the speaker. There we go. There's the speaker. And I'm getting ready to test the coils. Now actually I've got one of the coils hooked up right now. So this is the one, get my meter where you can see it. So this is the one that should be 2600 and we're reading about 2700, so I'm real happy with that. Get this so I can hook up the other ones. It looks like you can see that. As long as Dodge Moose doesn't knock my tripod over. So let's move it over to the other coil. And we're 207 and it said 200, so pretty darn close. I'm real happy with that. Also, luckily, the year and a half that this has been sitting around, I at least had this in a drawer, so it did not get damaged. The speaker material is actually in very good shape. No holes. And the spider is still good. So as long as I don't put my finger through this thing, I'm getting ready to put it back into the housing. So we'll get that in there. I've got to start hooking these wires up. I'm getting to that point. So we'll come back. So we're ready for a quick update, everybody. I'm still on this 54C, and as you can see, I've got the speaker and the output coil or output transformer. Everything's in place. I got the electrolytics in place. I restuffed the electrolytics. Move top side. Got my condenser blocks. You guys may or may not remember this particular 54 was missing a ton of stuff. I had to get another condenser block and stuff it to be in here. I replaced all of the wiring, all of the resistors. I redid all of the coils. I've got the second IF installed and wired up. I've got the oscillator installed and wired up. I got the first IF installed. I've got the first wire on it. So I got to finish wiring it up. And then I've got to get the antenna coil installed and wired up. And then the trimmers. I got one trimmer installed. I put new mic in that one. I may put new mic in the other ones. But that's what I got left. So I'll get to that and we'll see what we can do. Also, I did cover up the speaker because I was afraid of poking a hole in it. But it's coming. here's where I stand right now with the 54. By the way, I've been calling this a 54C, and it really isn't a 54C, it's a model 54. If you look at the schematic here, 54, and also come over here to my diagram, you can see this was also model 54. It didn't say 54C. And you can see the layout. I get the angle right where it's not flashing for you there. You can see the layout is exactly the same as what I have. The other radio is a 54C, and the wiring is different between the 54 and the 54C. I didn't have a whole lot of luck going back and forth between the two radios, so I had to rely entirely on the schematic, which is fine because that's what I should be doing anyway. I did find some interesting things though, because either the schematic is wired wrong. For instance, I'll show you, I don't know if I can get close enough, but on the second detector coil, one side of the detector coil is 45 ohms, the other side is 105 ohms. Now, they have the 105 ohm section of the coil going to the 75 tube terminal 4. Right. And the 45 ohm going to the 78 plate tube. The way the radio was wired originally, and I'm not holding a whole lot of faith in the way it was wired because the thing had been so molested and so jerry-rigged around, although the soldering looked original when I took it loose, they're just the opposite on this. They have the 105 ohm going to the 78 plate and the 45 going to the 75. I decided I was going to wire it per the schematic versus how it was wired and how it came apart, be that right or wrong. Always kind of have heard wire it per the schematic, especially when you don't know what you're looking at because somebody else has been in there. But anyway, the wiring is done. Whether or not it'll work is yet to be seen. I have it all together. I put a new line cord in there. The safety switch is all wired up to work perfect. This is not period correct cord. I did not have the cord that I thought I had to go in here, and I didn't use the old one from the 54C. I looked at it, and although it was soft and supple and the outside looked pretty good, the inside wire was really corroded. So I decided not to use it. I found this in one of my drawers. You know, some of the super old stuff used this, but this is more modern lamp cord type stuff. I did pull the connector, the plug, off of the 54C, which is, I'm pretty sure, original, and I cleaned it all up. Cleaned the plug all up. And what I did was I made the spade on this side brighter than the one on the other side. I don't know if it'll show that way or not. I also notched the plug, and I'm not sure if this is going to show up or not because I can't get real close up with this Kodak ZE-1. But I put a notch in there, and I painted the notch with some of that chrome. The reason I did that was because I wanted to make this polarized to an extent without putting a polarized plug on it. So that's the way I'm identifying it, and this will be the way that it'll be identified. Now, obviously, if I die at some point in time, somebody might not realize that's what it is. But anyway, now I haven't actually installed a fuse on this yet. I want to make sure that it's going to work before I go through all that additional. And then at that point, I probably will install one of those soldered in glass fuses instead of drilling a hole in the back. But it's ready to plug in and test. I still have to test my tubes. I still have to find the tubes. I'm not sure where I put them. I think they're over in my tube drawers, but I think I did label them as 54C. So I'm going to find the tubes. My finger's in the camera, just realized that. I'm going to find the tubes and I'm going to test them, and then I'm going to put them in there, and then I'm going to take it to the variac with my dim bulb in there and slowly power it up and see what I've got wrong. See what all wiring I got wrong, if I got any dead shorts, everything that I might have wrong. And then I'll have to troubleshoot it. But what I still have yet to do here is I got to blow this all out. I've got to get my magnifier, look very closely, make sure I don't have any loose solder joints anywhere, make sure that I don't have anything shorted that's obviously visible, solder globs someplace, and then, you know, blow it all out real good. So I think that this is a good spot to end this part 4 video. I looked at my other videos this morning and I see that I left off with part 3.5. So this is part 4. And I'm going to leave it here for part 4 of the 54. And in part 5, we will go ahead and get it hooked up to the variac and bring it up and see if it lives or if it's dead as a hammer. And then determine the troubleshooting from there. So for those of you that watched my first one from about 2 years ago, thank you. If you haven't watched it, you might as well go back and watch them so that you'll see what led me to this point on this. We'll take it from there and see if we can make this thing live. If it doesn't live and I can't get it figured out, I guess it'll become a shelf queen. I'm still going to do the cabinet, so obviously like part 6 will be the cabinet work to get that all restored. So I can put it in there. I hope I can make this thing work. If you're not a subscriber, I would like for you to subscribe to my channel. If you like what you've seen here, even if you didn't like what you see here, hopefully things will get better. And if you are a subscriber, thank you for subscribing to Gregg's Vintage Workshop. I've got some additional product obviously to work on this year yet, and obviously going into next year. But for now, I want to thank you for watching Gregg's Vintage Workshop, where I'm restoring history one piece at a time. Stay safe and healthy. Hey everybody, I thought I'd show you the Delta 10-inch compound power miter saw that I bought at a yard sale for $5. I got it all cleaned up, and I think it cleaned up pretty good. I mean, for $5. I've got it clamped to my one workbench here so it doesn't move around, because I'm going to put you on the tripod and do a little demo for you, but I figured I'd let you see it kind of up close and personal. Now, I haven't put a new blade in it yet. It cleaned up pretty nice. Now, there was some issues with it. Alright? It was stuck down. And it wasn't the lock holding it. There was literally compacted full of crap in the back here by the spring. And it wouldn't miter, as far as it wouldn't cock over, right? And it wouldn't rotate this way. Everything was seized up. So basically, I didn't take it apart. I just shot some WD-40 in there and loosened the hardware a little bit and worked it around, and now it all works perfect. So, oh, and the other thing I found was on the handle itself, the mounting tabs, where the screws go through here, 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 and here. I think this one too. They're all broke. The mounting tabs are broke off in there. So even though the screws are kind of, this screw here and this screw here actually hold the motor to the housing, they were really the only thing holding the handle in place. So I took the handle off and everything was there. It just needed to be glued back together, and I super glued it all back together again, let it sit overnight, clamped it all in clamps, and it went together perfect. So I think it's in pretty good shape. So let me get you on a tripod real fast, and I'll cut a piece of wood, show you how well it works. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to show you the various features here. So, undo the lock there. See, it actually returns, spring returns it perfectly fine now. Everything's good with that. So that being said, let's go to the miter section back here in the back. Loosen that up. And it does full miter very easily. And over here, it's 22, that's 45 if my clamp wasn't completely in the way. There you go. So it works good. Everything's working good. So let's cut a piece of wood. I haven't even cut anything with it since let's cut this. A little tiny thing. I don't want to make a big mess down here, but I'll cut it just so you guys see it works. And I guess I need to plug it in, or it's not going to work. Plug it in right here and try and keep my cord out of the blade. There we go. Put the cord down there. All right, let's just kind of quick cut this off. Just going to cut a little piece off of it. Yeah, works good. My $5 Delta compound miter saw. Good stuff. Just want to show you that.